Well, it's time for another highly requested tank update video, and as you know, a few things have changed. One making a very large impact on my aquarium. So let's start off with the first and biggest change, my new filter. As you know, I used the eShop's WD75CS wet-dried trickle filter for about 2 years on this tank, and surprisingly, my plants grew, and pretty fast I might add. I was able to grow an entire carpet of dwarf baby tears and a huge wall of rotala. So even though the wet dry was doing what it was originally meant for, injecting tons of oxygen and depleting CO2 levels, my plants still grew pretty fast. But hold on, don't go out and buy a wet dry filter instead of a canister just yet. A couple really important things I couldn't achieve with the wet dry was getting my plants to pearl, or more commonly known as bubbling or producing oxygen. And my plants grew fast, but not as fast as they do now. I was averaging about an inch of growth every 3 weeks. Ever since I switched to the Hydro Model 450 canister filter, my plants average about 3 inches of growth a week. Trust me, I measured my plants. It's just incredible how fast my plants grow now. I already knew this, but it turns out once and for all, a closed filtration system just works much better for planted aquariums. A closed system means no CO2 loss and insane plant growth. So switching to the canister filter was the best decision I really could have ever made for my tank. Next, as you guys may have seen in the Hydro canister filter review, I also got a 5-pound CO2 tank. Using this tank instead of those 20-ounce paintball tanks gives me the ability to set up my CO2 system and not have to touch it for months on end, which is great. Further automation with my aquarium and less I have to do. More time to stare at it and admire my plants. Next, I got a lot of neon tetras. About 30 or 40 of them. I really can't say for sure because a lot of them like to hide in the rotala. But as you can see, they look amazing. Neons have always been a favorite of mine because of that blue fluorescent stripe in the middle of their bodies. It just glows so perfectly under the appropriate lighting and makes them really stand out. Lastly, I got a new plant. I purchased 3 bundles of pearl weed from the shop for my own tank. Yes, even though I'm in charge of all aquatic plants at Global Aquatics and employed there, I still have to pay for my plants. But trust me, it was worth it. Pearl weed for one is really hard to find on the internet. I've been looking for this stuff for years. It's very popular in Europe, but not so much in America. Thankfully, with our connection to the aquatic plant nursery in Thailand, we have access to as much pearl weed as we want. That kind of sounds a little funny, by the way. I chose to add this plant to my tank because the baby tears didn't really transition that great to the wall of rotala. I wanted a plant that still grew compact and carpeted, so pearl weed was a great choice. It looks great already, but once it carpets out and lines the entire gap between my rotala and baby tears, it'll look even better.